What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is the Blacklist Season 9, Episode 10, Arcane Wireless. So, unfortunately, this one was not great, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that the premise of this episode is pretty interesting. And I feel like there's a lot of interesting stuff they could have done with it. However, they didn't do any of what I was thinking they were possibly going to do, and so ultimately it kind of became a very bland episode, because this idea of Arcane Wireless, you could see why somebody might have created it with good intentions. You know, the idea that you can basically keep yourself from being listened to, keep your phone, your conversations, all of that from being looked in on, snooped upon. Because most people know the government, they have that ability, and if they wanted to, they could easily listen in. And that can be a scary thought sometimes. Like, you want to believe the government will not do something like that without good reason, but we don't know for sure. A lot of people don't necessarily trust everybody in the government. So there is that concern of, as long as they're doing it with good intentions and snooping on the people's phones that they need to snoop on, like criminals, that's fine. But who do they consider criminals? Who are the ones making that decision on who to snoop in on? So that's kind of where this idea could be born from of, well, if you don't want people to just snoop on you for no reason, here's a way to do it. However, even if that was made with the best intentions, criminals could use that. They could utilize that to keep all of their criminal dealings from being looked in upon. So it could be one of those situations of the guy who created it had good intentions, but then this guy is using it, the seer, to sell to criminals. And I thought maybe there would be a discussion about that down the line. However, that was not the case at all. It turns out this is all just one big scheme to bug these phones, make the criminals think that they couldn't be traced, blah, 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 blah. There was a plan to take down Reddington. Reddington put the task force on it to stop that, and that was the whole story. Okay. Kind of feels like a little bit of a wasted opportunity there. Not only that, but also the stuff going on outside of this Blacklist thing is what was going on with Hetty. The fact that she was arrested at the beginning of this episode, you're thinking, okay, how do they know to arrest her? What is Reddington going to do to get her out of there? All of it tied back in with the Arcane Wireless thing. Apparently she was arrested because the Arcane Wireless phones were bugging Reddington. That's how they found out about her, that whole operation. And then you've got, he uses the information about, like Marvin Gerard uses the information about the phones at the end to get Hetty released. It's so simple. It's such a simple premise, and it's so easily solved, and it's all just wrapped up in this one episode. I feel like there's so much more we could have done here with that. And I don't know. I just see that potential, and I see the possibility of having some real deep, meaningful conversations about it, seeing who would be on what side, trying to figure out the best way to utilize it, maybe trying to find a way to keep the bad guys from getting their hands on it while still trying to help the people that maybe just want to be left alone. I don't know. Just something, anything to talk about. And they just avoided all of those conversations and made it all focused on, oh no, we stopped an FBI investigation that was going into these people. Whoops. It's just, I don't know. It's a little frustrating for me. The little side story as well with Aram and this guy that apparently mentored him, I felt like that was a little weak too. Like, Aram was all fidgety and jumpy around him, and then finds out apparently he's applying for his role in the company that he decided to sell his portion of. And that just felt kind of, okay, and, oh, well, I'm jealous because he's going to get a bunch of money for it. Okay, and Park pointed it out perfectly the first time of asking, you should be flattered that your mentor enjoyed this idea of your company so much that he was willing to put himself in there. Like, that should be flattering to you. Instead, you're jealous because he's making money that you decided to give up. That's just, it makes Aram look like, I don't know, a bit of a selfish. It just makes him look a little bit too shallow as a character for me. So, all in all, I feel like there was a lot about this episode. There was potential there that I feel like was wasted. And then the side story with Aram, I feel like was not great, was not a whole lot of fun to watch either. Aram being this jealous, shallow person. I was not a fan of this one. This has definitely been the weakest episode this season, which, to be fair, is better than the last two seasons, because this probably would have been one of the more interesting ones in the last two seasons. However, as far as this season goes, it feels like this is a step in the wrong direction. I hope this is just going to be a one-off bad episode and then the rest are going to be more interesting. But who knows? We'll see. On to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now, episode 11, The Conglomerate. So this was a bit more what I was hoping to see when it came to Park and her relationship with her husband. This was a pretty interesting setup, finding out that apparently she had worked for this group of assassins in the past, and she was herself an assassin. I think that was a nice little plot point to throw in, and on top of that, it throws in this previous love interest, or I don't know if I would call it love, seemed a little bit more physical than that, but to throw this in and to see what she was doing before she met, why don't I remember his name now? I don't know why I want to say Jake. I don't think that's right, though. But her current husband, before she met him, how she was an assassin working with this guy, John. Yeah, I think it's a good, interesting story. It gives her a little bit more depth. It shows how she was trying to, I guess, find an avenue to release this rage that she had pent up inside. And of course, now she's looking to see maybe her husband can give her an outlet, somebody to talk to about this and maybe help her with that rage. I think we'll probably see a little bit more of that. I feel like it's now more so just going to be focused on, are they going to make it in this marriage or not, which will be a little less interesting for me personally. But I liked this episode. I liked this moment, this crossroads moment of, where is this going to go? Where are they going to go from here? Now that he knows what's going on, he has almost the full story. He's going to get more of the full story now, seemingly. Where do they go from here? I feel like this moment is a good turning point for them. And it's a good, I think, setup as well for why it has to happen. Why this turning point happens in the first place. Bringing in this Richter guy and bringing in her past as an assassin. It's all very well set up, in my opinion. So really enjoyed all of that. The Conglomerate itself wasn't all that interesting, to be honest. It felt like filling in the blanks of Park's past as an assassin, and then of course also Reddington looking into what happened with Liz. Those were the main focuses for this episode. So the Conglomerate themselves, it was very simple. She walks in with a camera on her button, and then they catch them outside of Richter, and that was it. So I was a little disappointed in that respect, because it's an interesting idea. All these powerful people basically being hired to assassinate whoever. All these different, they work for different, what's it called? Like organizations in all these powerful countries. To have that set up, it's an interesting premise, but we didn't really do anything with it. So I really feel like this season especially, the Blacklisters have taken a bit of a hit. And this was another example of, it could have been an interesting idea and we didn't really do anything with it, which is very disappointing for me. But moving on to the stuff with Reddington and looking into this tracker that was apparently planted on Liz, it's interesting. I think especially knowing that they're going to have to exhume Elizabeth's body to find this tracker. I don't know what this means. I don't know how somebody could have planted the tracker on her. But, I like where this is going. I think this is a good setup. I will say the fact that we haven't really talked about what's going on with Cooper in a little bit is a little weird. And it makes me feel like, I guess it gives me a little bit more of an idea that it is going to be connected to whoever killed Liz or had Liz killed. Because I feel like more than likely it's going to be somebody we know. I don't know who. Off the top of my head, I know we've got some people like Hetty, we've got Marvin Gerard. I don't think Dembe would be responsible. I don't know if Weecha or I think it's her sister. Again, her name still escapes me, but the one that Reddington was in love with. I don't know if they're going to be involved, because it seems weird that they would have something to do with this and then would grow close to Reddington after the fact. That seems like it doesn't really make sense. So I'm assuming it would be somebody in Reddington's organization. And of the people we know, Dembe, Hetty, and Marvin Gerard, it could be either of Hetty or Gerard, I guess. We haven't really talked much about the one guy. He showed up in, I think it was in this episode, the one guy that does all the torturing and stuff. he hasn't really been much of a main character, so I feel like that would be kind of a weak twist if it was him. But that's what I'm feeling, though, is it's going to be somebody in his organization. I don't know why. Off the top of my head, Marvin Gerard seems like he has a bit more of a motive, because the one episode when he was talking to Dembe, he was talking about how Elizabeth should not be the one taking over Reddington's organization. So maybe he's the one that had her killed, so that way, you know, he would, not necessarily he would take it over, but somebody that he respected more, somebody he thought deserved it more, would get that, all that stuff. That's just off the top of my head the first thought that comes to mind. That being said, it feels a little too obvious to me, because he wasn't hardly involved at all until the idea of somebody possibly having done this, having set this up, having tracked Elizabeth and given Van Dyke the locations. That episode where they talked about all that is the first time we saw Marvin Gerard this season. I feel like that's a little too obvious for the show. That being said, the writers have shown that they're not exactly at their finest over the past 2 seasons, although I don't know how much the writing team changed. But maybe they are being a little obvious with it, if that's the case. I don't know. I'm just sort of spitballing some ideas. I don't know how whoever it is planted the tracker on Liz, but it'll be interesting to see whenever they exhume her body how they figure that out. But yeah, all in all, I mean, this is a fine episode. Some good moments with Park, and again, more intriguing moments with Reddington and tracking Liz. And again, not knowing what's going on with Cooper makes me think, I guess I didn't finish this thought from earlier, but the fact that we haven't talked about it makes me think we'll be bringing it up later in the season, because I think it's going to be tied into whoever was tracking Liz. Because in my mind, it makes sense that if they take out Cooper, that's the head of the task force. It's a good plan if you want to get rid of the task force, which is something Reddington would use to track down whoever had Liz killed. So in my mind, the dots all connect pretty easily if I think about it like that. But who knows? Maybe that's not correct at all. But with all that being said, on to the final of these 3 episodes. I'll see you there. And now, episode 12, The Chairman. So this one was okay. Mostly just pieces moving forward, getting the tracker from Liz, like out of Liz's body. We see Wrestler, kind of falling off, or almost falling off the wagon again, so Park has to tell Dembe and Aram, so that way they are in the loop as well and can help him. You see Red sends the team after this chairman who is running this night market that he's a part of, and he sees that somebody's trying to buy out his stock, so I guess this is probably a sign to him, or was one of his early signs that somebody was trying to take him down and maybe take over his business. So again, stands to reason that whoever is doing this has been manipulating things behind the scene, probably tracked Liz so that she would not be the one to take over Red's business, had her shot, all of that. So it makes sense that he's trying to piece this together to figure out who did it all. And then for Cooper, we just have steps forward with his blackmailer telling him to abduct this MIT, I think, graduate? I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was fine. Nothing really phenomenal about it. I will say the chairman himself seemed kind of interesting at first, but once again, instead of tackling this interesting Blacklister and making him they made him super intimidating right off the bat. He's cutting off people's fingers because they betrayed him. But instead of really focusing in on that, we focus on the team trying to track down somebody who is a part of the night market so they can capture him, try to get him to talk, and then can go get the chairman. And that takes up a majority of the episode, so we don't actually see the team go after him until right at the very end. And how they do it is clever, but again, it didn't feel like we really spent much time with the chairman, and he could have been a fun Blacklister for them to take on. So it feels like there's quite a few of those types of episodes where we have an interesting Blacklister, or one that maybe if they spent a little bit more time on him, maybe they could have done something interesting. And either they don't spend that much time on them, or they don't take them in the direction that would have made them interesting. They kind of make it a bit more simple. So I don't know. It feels like a majority of the time and effort went into writing the background of this season, writing all of these intricate plots that are going on outside of each episode, rather than trying to make each individual episode interesting. And I feel like it's not killed this season for me. I'm not sitting here going, oh, God, I'm so bored. It's just not quite the same standard that I've held this show to in the past. So compared to some of the other shows I watched, like, I'm definitely watching this with a lot more interest than something like NCIS, or sometimes Criminal Minds, could get pretty bland. Those shows, every episode, it's basically just some new bad guy to take down. And yeah, that premise does start to get old after a while. The Blacklist, at least, has still got me engaged and wanting to see more and wanting to watch these Blacklisters, even in a season whenever the Blacklisters themselves are not all that interesting. So that is definitely credit to them, but with that being said, like I said before, the standard of which these Blacklisters I'm personally holding them to, they're not meeting it for me. It's just been a very season as far as the people they're taking down. But yeah, everything else, so like I said, I don't really have any further theories based on this episode. I'm still feeling like it's going to be somebody in Red's organization, somebody we know in his organization that is trying to take him down. Again, the clues point me to Marvin Gerard. Hetty is the only other candidate I can think of. I guess maybe there's a possibility that maybe it's somebody that works in the task force or knows of the task force as well. Somebody could... I'm not sure Panabaker's that connected, so I don't think it would be her. And then this Lou guy that Cooper's working with to hide everything going on with the blackmailer. I don't think he seems to know anything about the task force and what they're doing, so I don't think he really has enough of a connection. But the team members, I can't really see. Wrestler obviously hates Reddington and would love to take him down, but I don't think he has the resources or the know-how to really do what whoever this is doing. Dembe, like I said, I don't think it's him. It feels weird, or it would feel weird if it was him, because based on some of the episodes we've had this season and some of the stuff we've learned about him and the aftermath of everything that happened, it doesn't seem like something he would do. Maybe somebody could set him up and make it look like it was him, and I did have the thought that they might be going in that direction, but we haven't really touched on that at all. It doesn't feel like anybody is blaming Dembe. I don't know why I said Dende. Nobody's talking about Little Green here. But I feel like we haven't really focused on that at all. And again, based on some of his reactions of what we've learned this season, I guess he really could be faking it really well. But it doesn't feel like, the flashback episode where we saw everything that happened after Red left the organization and everything he did, it doesn't feel like somebody who is trying to take it over from him and trying to rule it or take Reddington down. That didn't feel like the actions of somebody who would be doing that. Hetty, for me, she seems a little bit more likely in a sense of she doesn't seem likely. It's one of those, because I've seen so many mysteries and like crime shows, I tend to suspect somebody who is the most middle, what does Dwight say on The Office? The most medium suspect or something like that. That's kind of where I am. And Hetty, for me, is probably the most medium suspect. She is involved. She does seemingly have enough know-how of Reddington's organization to probably do something, but she doesn't seem like she would. It seems like she really trusts Reddington and is very loyal to him. So that could all be an act. Gerard seems almost like the red herring, if I'm being honest. Like, he seems too obvious. We saw that scene with him and Dembe where he said Liz should not be running it. And to me, that's kind of just, hey, there's his motive. There's a reason why he would want Reddington out of the way, would want a big stock in his corporation, because he thinks he should be running it. He thinks he knows what's best for this and everything that they own in the organization. I don't know. Again, it kind of feels a little obvious. Again, the fact that they brought him in on the episode whenever they're talking about somebody did this, somebody had Van Dyke go kill Liz, somebody gave him the information. I don't know. We also, his lover left on that episode as well. Like, she was off the show on that episode. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe her and Weecha are involved some. I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm constantly trying to piece stuff together, and the show has done such a good job of intricately crafting plot lines that I'm trying to stay one step ahead. I'm trying to see if I'm following the clues they're giving me. And again, a lot of those clues are pointing me to somebody like Gerard, but I feel like I shouldn't already be getting there halfway through the season. Unless we are going to find out soon who's the one in behind all of this stuff. I guess that could be why I'm feeling like it's leading up to him. But I don't know. I don't know what the writers are planning. I don't know if they are trying to throw red herrings in there to keep me off the trail, keep the audience off the trail, or if they are writing for the lowest common denominator. And so maybe normal people watching this wouldn't have already tuned in to thinking that it's going to be somebody close to Red that's doing all of this. Maybe they aren't looking at what Gerard said and thinking, oh, that's a motive. Maybe people aren't catching all of this, and I am, because I'm super intelligent and smart, right? I'm just kidding. I don't think that highly of myself. But I don't know. Yeah. I think that's about all I've got to say on it, though. I am glad that Dembe and Aram know about what's going on with Wrestler now. I think that'll be good to finally get past all of those lies. There has been a lot in this season that I feel like they've done pretty well when it comes to personal lives. And I think they are doing well when it comes to pacing it and when to end certain plot lines. Wrestler hiding all of this from the team. It feels like a good time for that to be done. We've had a majority of this first half of the season to talk about it. Let's move past that. Now more people know, more people can be there to help him. Park and her husband, that's kind of seemingly wrapping up. There might be one more episode where we kind of figure out whether he can live with all the stuff that she's told him or not. But I think mostly that story is done. Wrestler in Reddington, the distrust there, that's still going on, but it's kind of been something that hasn't really been brought up for a while until this episode. So I kind of feel like that's one that'll probably be coming to an end soon as well. But I feel like because they haven't really been pushing it, we had like 2 or 3 episodes where it was really the focus of Wrestler just not trusting him, believing he is the one responsible for getting Liz killed. Those moments have happened, but they haven't really been in our face for a majority of the season. So I feel like that's why I've been able to stomach it for longer. And once again, I do feel like that's probably one that I feel like is going to come to an end pretty soon. I feel like there will be a moment, more than likely, maybe in the next few episodes, maybe it'll be just the next time we discuss this plot point. I feel like we're going to get an episode where Wrestler's going to have to trust Reddington. Again, he's going to have to be like, okay, you know what? I still don't like what you did. I still think you're responsible, but clearly there's a bigger picture thing going on here. We need to solve it or whatever. That's just kind of the feeling that I'm getting from it, but who knows? Maybe they'll do something completely different and will shock me. But anyways, with all that being said, that's it for these 3 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Blacklist reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.